Hello, I'm Bob McIntosh, the Tenant Farming Commissioner. In a normal year, I'd be seeing you in person at the Royal Highland Show and meeting with many of you at the informal drop-in surgeries that we have. Now, although we can't do that this year, I'm pleased that there's still a way to connect, and I'm here today to tell you about the new Tenant Farming Commissioner's Mediation Scheme, which will run over the next 3 years, and to talk in general about the importance of mediation in the agriculture sector. When the role of the TFC was created, the main objective was to foster good relations between landlords and tenants of agricultural holdings. And indeed, I've always seen my role as something of a mediator. And I've come to greatly value the role of mediation in resolving disputes within the sector. So following the success of our pilot mediation service, we've now introduced a new scheme for agricultural landlords and tenants, with the aim of increasing access to mediation and helping landlords and tenants resolve disputes or potential disputes as an alternative to seeking resolution through litigation. The new TFC Mediation Scheme, which will run for 3 years, has 3 elements to it. Firstly, it provides a pre-mediation gateway to ensure that parties are ready for mediation and to enable access to TFC support if that's required. Secondly, it gives access to an approved panel of experienced mediators. And thirdly, it provides a contribution from the Scottish Land Commission of 1/3 of the total cost of the mediation process. Now, the new scheme is open to any relevant party in the tenant farming sector, provided though that those involved have attempted to resolve their issues through constructive engagement and applying the principles of any relevant TFC codes of practice or guidance notes, and also that they've sought my advice first. Clearly, the parties have to agree to take part in the mediation and be willing to prepare and engage constructively, and they must also agree to split any costs of the mediation that are not being met by the Land Commission. Now, if you're not familiar with how mediation can work in the agriculture sector, please take a look at this short extract from a full-length mock mediation. It was filmed using real-life experts role-playing a dispute, and it's designed to give you a feel for how a real mediation works in practice.
Our role as the mediators is very clear that we are not actually making any decisions. We're not a judge, we're not saying who's right and who's wrong. We are facilitating the coming together of the different parties in this scenario, and I think that's really helpful that you understand that. I mean, sometimes people say we are impartial. I really don't like that. I don't like that phrase. I'm impartial, because I think I'm multi-partial. I think I'm partial for everybody. I want there to be a resolution. I want people to come together. I want it to work. I'm not just standing back. I'm not disinterested. I'm not neutral. So I think that's but I'm not going to make a decision, and neither is Lindsay. Is that fair enough, Lindsay?
Absolutely.
Well, Heather had emailed me with an outline of the proposals that she's just been explaining, and I've had an opportunity to discuss them with George and with Tom. And I think it's fair to say that we were pleased about the proposals that have been made, and we're beginning to see that it will be possible to reach an agreement here. We do have concerns about some of the details, particularly with regard to some of the rental figures that Heather and the other has proposed. We don't think that those rental figures would be acceptable, but I think that we're very hopeful that with further discussion, it'll be possible to resolve these issues. But we are quite interested in a deal that would involve a modern limited duration tenancy for a period of 10 years with an option to take up a contract farming agreement after that. And we do see that, subject to ironing out the technical details, it's beginning to look like we might be able to get to an agreement that we would be able to live with.
I mean, if I can add, Heather, I mean, I think lifting that restriction actually works in everybody's favour.
After all,
the landlord's now providing potato store, you know, and it meets the landlord's agenda of farm to fork and all of that. So yeah, I don't see that as being a difficulty. It's down to Tom and I on rent, and you know, I think providing we get everything that we want as outlined by Heather, then you know it's probably going to be a classic compromise.
Sorry, come in, Hamish.
Pamela, thank you. If I can come in there, I think that we're likely to be able to bring forward the date that we would be able to give up the farmhouse, but I don't think we can achieve the date that you'd originally fixed. But suggesting that it might be sometime after Christmas, essentially sometime during January, we might be able to do something about that. And I will need to take client instruction on 10 years rather than 15 years.
Okay, you mentioned, Mark, compromise. I mean, I think starting to see the areas of compromise, almost the sliding scales. You've got, is it 10 years, 15 years or something in between? I don't know if it can be something in between. You've got the date of entry that's negotiable. You've got the rental values, which clearly need some more discussion, but certainly starting to make good progress and seeing where those negotiations have to happen. And always bearing in mind, and I know you are, the alternative to this is not reaching an agreement, which at this stage in the discussions would seem a really very sad thing.
Absolutely, and I think this is about a partnering relationship going forward. It has to be about a partnering relationship going forward. And I think on that basis, I would be prepared to go back to Sean, and I think our walkaway position is £80 an acre.
And Sean and George, you've had meetings with each other, obviously, and you've had the opportunity to say things to each other. Is there anything you want to say just as we finish up, just as we close? Because now it will be for the solicitors to put what they have agreed into writing. Is there anything you want to say to each other?
Pamela, I think just to say thank you both to George, but to everybody else for all the work they put into this and being able to come together to a constructive agreement that we can have forward into the future. Thank you, Sean. George?
Yeah, I think it's been constructive. When I started this mediation process, I thought I didn't really have a leg to stand on, but I've discovered that there were things that I had that I could offer and use as, for want of a better word, bargaining chips. And I think between myself and Sean, we've worked out how to create, as in your words as the mediator, a bigger piece of cake to divide up. And looking at the short term and the long term, we've seemed to have resolved it all to a certain extent. And I feel as though I am now in a better position and place looking to the future than I was at the start of this session.
If you'd like to watch the rest of the mock mediation, it's available to view in full on the Scottish Land Commission's website. But I hope it's given you a flavour of how mediation works and the value that there is in helping parties in dispute to reach an agreement rather than having one imposed by a court or an arbitrator. Now, the culture of alternative dispute resolution is not yet firmly established in the agriculture sector, but we are working to change that. I'm totally convinced that mediation has an important part to play in resolving landlord-tenant issues that might otherwise simply fester or which might result in litigation of one form or another. So I do encourage you to find out more about the new TFC Mediation Scheme and its potential to maintain and rebuild good landlord-tenant relationships. You'll get full details of the scheme and how to apply on the Scottish Land Commission website at landcommission.gov.scot.